Everybody, it's Tuesday, May 2nd. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report. Let me get TikTok rolling here. And then, as always, we're going to take 2 or 3 minutes just to let people arrive because it takes a few minutes on Twitch and YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else. We stream everywhere. Anyway, so do your usual, maybe introduce yourselves while we are waiting for folks to arrive. Ooh, okay, I may have to get more water. I'm thirsty today. I had a piece of pizza earlier, which is a bad move, because now I just want water. Anyway, how's everybody? How are we doing? Ooh, get my notes. Lots of interesting news today, which is good. Hello, Minnesota. What else we got here? Where's everybody else? I did flip the screen. Don't tell me to flip the screen after I flip the screen. You're confusing me. Screen is flipped. Don't confuse me. Anyway, oh, that's good. Our first troll. I always like when the trolls try to they try to join my show. As soon as it starts, somebody sends a request. Can I join your show? Like to be a guest. And it's like, why would I do that? Very confusing. Anyway, hey, everybody. Virginia, you're Ukrainian. Oh, hey, Tanya. Nice to meet you. Oh, thank you for the hat there. User 2678. Anyway, folks are joining us. We usually take about 2 or 3 minutes just for folks to arrive because it takes a little bit of time for people to get the notice on TikTok and on YouTube and everywhere else. We beam to a couple different services at the same time. Panoramic view. There is no panoramic view. I am broadcasting from Chicago, though, if that's what you mean right now. Normally I'm in Washington, D.C., but visiting mom for the month. So you are getting Chicago. Oh, Malcolm will be contacting me? I would love Malcolm to be contacting me. I consider Malcolm a friend. I've always respected Malcolm. Mom is doing well for 93. Another minute, guys, and then we'll get started. As I said, I always like to sort of wait 2 or 3 minutes because it takes a minute for, you did. Okay. Oh, cool, Dark Chef. Thank you. Well, I told you, I've been wanting to get Malcolm on. It's just with going to Ukraine and stuff, he was so busy, I just didn't want to push him. All right, guys, I think we're good here. So welcome, everybody. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Chicago, normally from Washington, D.C., where I live normally, but visiting mom for the month in Chicago. This is my daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S., where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. The way the show works is I give you guys sort of my take on what's going on with the news, what stories I think are important today, what I think they say about what's going on. And then I take your guys' question for the second half of the show. Just a reminder, I am beaming in TikTok here on my iPad, and on my laptop over here, I've got Twitch and YouTube and LinkedIn and everybody else. So you will see me looking back and forth like this. Now you know why, because I've got you guys on both sides. So hopefully I'm not being too confusing. Thank you already for the gifts. Oh, Tom Clark with the marvelous confetti. I'm beginning to brand you as the marvelous confetti guy, Tom. Thank you for that. Was just going to say, to submit questions on TikTok, the easiest way is to go to the Q&A link in my profile. On YouTube, etc., the easiest way, obviously, is the comment box at the bottom of the screen. I very much appreciate your gifts on TikTok, your super chat, super stickers, etc. on YouTube. Oh, we got everything. Purnell with the boxing robe, Bonnie with the boat. Thank you, guys. Because I do this for free. I've been doing this for free since the war broke out. I decided I've always been a consultant working on my own for, almost on my own for 20 years now. 20 years. 25 years, and then went to the United Nations for 2 years, full-time there, and then left, and then went back to my consulting. Purnell with the boxing robe. Sorry, real quick. We're getting a lot of gifts coming up here. You're going too fast. I'm trying to thank the gift people. Just so you know, I'm seeing them. It's just the way TikTok's new setup, which is a disaster. Everything flows by. Okay, Bonnie with the boat. Sorry, guys. I like to thank people for the gifts when they give them. All right, thank you, Bonnie, again. And I see Tar. All it says is Tar, X-Tar. Tarmo, thank you. So, yes, I was just going to say, so the way it works for the gifts is, since I have been doing this full time since the war broke out, I appreciate the gifts because, honestly, you guys pay my salary. No one's paying me to do this. I know everyone's giving all these gifts today. You guys are crazy. Thank you. Thank you. I missed whoever's name it was who just did the little boat flags back and forth and the fruits. Oh, my God, you guys are driving me nuts here. Inspired woman. you have to be on TikTok to appreciate what's going on, but it's like nonstop gifts, which is really sweet. But I try to make it, thank you guys, Newsy. I try to make it so that I thank folks when they do the gifts, but it's really hard sometimes when you're too, I like you being generous though, but when they're too generous, thank you, B. Smith. Sorry, guys. It's the nature of as I was saying, since I do this full time for free, it is my job. So I very much appreciate when you guys can do the gifts because you're literally helping me keep this show going. So thank you for that. And thank you guys. I appreciate all of those on TikTok. That was sweet of you guys. So let me do a quick, what else are I going to do? Introduction. Please keep the gifts coming and let's get rolling. So it's day 432 of Vladimir Putin's 10-day special military operation. Just a quick shout out to the Twitch people because I set up something a little different on Twitch. I set up a separate account on Twitch. So my usual account I use on Twitch is now an affiliate account. That will be at this point Saturdays where I will do a weekend review just for Twitch because you have to do it exclusively. I'm going to do it this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time US on Twitch, and it'll be a weekend review. I'll sort of go over the news of the week and pick what I think are the top stories. We'll talk about half an hour and then take your guys' questions. Otherwise, and that'll be my Aravosis account on Twitch. Otherwise, this account you're at right now is the daily news update. All right. So yes, Mario wants a quick the map. Hello. We have our great little Ukraine map that we adore here. Somebody's getting me an insanely generous gift of the travel postcard. Oh, I know you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sorry, real quick. So we did have a super chat question here. I always promise anybody who gets a super chat question, because you have to pay for those on YouTube, I will get to those as the next thing I get to, rather than waiting otherwise, which I do for the questions for the second half of the show. Super chat gets priority because obviously you guys are paying for a gift and my hair is doing things tonight. Wow. But you guys are paying for a gift, so I appreciate that. And thank you for the boat there. Was that Carol? Thank you. So the question was, do you see the war going beyond Ukraine with the tempo? 6 Evo, I'm not sure what you mean by, do you mean the war spreading beyond Ukraine? Do you mind putting a follow-up? You don't have to pay for it, but put a follow-up question. And if Roshin or one of the mods can make sure they highlight it so I see it. Thank you for the May gift there, Bonnie. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you mean, do I see the war possibly spreading beyond Ukraine? I don't want to answer sort of the wrong question. So say that. I'm going to actually look right now. Sorry, we're just waiting for 6 Evo. If not, I will take Cliff's question. You know what? I'll take Cliff's question and 6 Evo when you get me a new one or like further explanation. I will get it. And hey there, Kev on Twitch. Who was the dude alongside McCarthy and said Ukraine must win to Russian reporter? McCarthy is the one who said, well, he didn't say Ukraine must win. The Steny Hoyer, I'm 99% sure Steny Hoyer was standing next to McCarthy in Israel. Help me out here, guys. I don't have the picture in front of me, but I think it was Steny Hoyer who he was the number 2 Democrat in the leadership. I don't even know where he is right now that we've got a new speaker, now that we have another, Pelosi sort of stepped down as the leadership role. But I'm not sure. I think it was Steny Hoyer, who's a Democrat of Maryland, long time. He always wanted to be speaker, actually, so that I think it was kind of a letdown, what's going on now that he's not speaker. But I'm going to bet it was Steny Hoyer. Yeah. Okay. 6 Evo was saying, meant to put current between the and tempo, but can't afford it. Current between the and tempo. Okay, that's still a riddle. Hang on. Okay. Do you see the war going beyond Ukraine with the current tempo? Okay, so it is the war going beyond Ukraine. So, overall, actually, this is interesting because there was some news today. I wasn't going to really touch on it because the polls tried to kind of step it back a little bit, but the Polish ambassador to France made some comments that it caused a bit of a stir because he seemed to suggest that if Ukraine loses the war, Poland is going to join in and attack Russia or something to that effect. He didn't say it that directly, but he did say something, right? And the news broke that that's how people interpreted it. The Polish government jumped in and said, no, 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 no. That is not what he was saying. The Poles seem to be trying to spin it now that their ambassador to France was simply trying to say that if Ukraine loses this war, this risks becoming a larger regional war because Russia will not be sated or satiated. I always forget the word, but basically Russia's appetite will grow if they're able to beat Ukraine. That's not quite what he said. It's not quite what he said, but who knows? Now, there's a bit of a contradiction here. Let me have it sated. Okay, thank you. I thought it's sated, and then I keep thinking satiated. Thank you, Dark Chef. On one hand, and I'm a believer in this, that NATO's nuclear deterrent will stop Russia from going after NATO countries. In other words, Russia's been threatened. Today they threatened Germany. Yesterday or the day before, they threatened Britain again. They hate the UK. I mean, they loathe the UK and Russia, but they like to threaten Germany a lot too. So today they were threatening Germany, and it's just this sort of nonstop, right, series of threats against NATO countries. Poland too. They actually talked earlier this week. Thank you, McFadge, for the Galaxy there. That's one of my faves. Earlier this week, there were threats against Poland with Soloviev or whatever, who's like a big Russian propagandist on TV, talking about, I think he did it again today or last night, talking about how, the Poles are Nazis and their country needs to be cleansed and they shouldn't even exist anymore and blah, 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 blah. Thank you, Erica, for the sail away. And actually, Soloviev just made the comments a few days ago. Medvedev made the comments too, who's a top guy in the Russian government as well. And he literally talked about like wiping out the Poles, like genocide, wiping out the Poles. So the reason I'm bringing this up is, typically, my response to that is to say NATO's nuclear umbrella protects all these countries, okay? NATO countries are all protected by the United States' nuclear weapons, by France's, by Britain's. So not an issue there. Thank you for the crown, Michael. And I guess it's in honor of the coronation. But having said that, as much as we are convinced that Russia won't dare attack NATO because of NATO's nuclear protections, thank you, Ellie, for that. We also are concerned that if Russia wins against Ukraine, Russia may be emboldened enough to attack a NATO country, to go after Poland or somebody else. I had mentioned before that, this is a bit of a contradiction because either Russia is afraid of attacking NATO and afraid of NATO's nukes, or they're not. I'm starting to sort of in my own head kind of reconcile this. And I think what might be going on, in terms of the concern here, because I think it kind of makes sense to me now. Currently, Russia is afraid to attack NATO. Russia is afraid of NATO's nukes, of NATO's Article 5, which is the commitment that all NATO countries make to each other to come to the defense, that an attack on one NATO country is an attack on all, okay? If we let Ukraine lose, and I will say, to a degree, we're letting Ukraine lose. We have been, I won't sort of give my long-term speech here that I always give my long speech, but from the beginning, we've been pulling punches. From the beginning, we've been splitting the baby in half. From the beginning, we didn't want to give Ukraine Stingers. We didn't want to give them HIMARS. We didn't want to give them Patriot missiles. We didn't want to give them, longer range missiles. And sort of each step of the way, we slow, like HIMARS. We spent months not giving them HIMARS, which is a weapon system for shooting missiles very precisely. Okay, a lot of missiles at once, like 6 or whatever it is, at once, 6 or 12. And then we started giving them, but we gave them one system. And then the next month, we gave them a second system. And then like 6 weeks later, we gave them another one. Well, finally, we got up to like 20, but it took like forever to get up to 20, right? It took until January of this year to approve tanks. And that was only because first we all beat up the Germans to provide the tanks. And then the Germans beat up the Americans to provide tanks because Biden didn't want to give any of his own tanks. So Germany, to its credit, I will say now in retrospect, beat up Biden and forced him. But my point is, this whole way, we have been afraid of Putin. And worst of all, President Biden, who I think has done a great B+ as I do on the American grading system, which might be a 13 in France, maybe a 14 out of 20 in France. I don't know for the rest of you Brits and everybody else, meaning a good job. But Biden from the beginning said that he was afraid of war with Russia, that we can't go to war with Russia. And he specifically said it, I believe, referring to those planes. Remember how Poland wanted to give the MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine at the beginning of the war, like back in like April or something of last year? And Biden, one of the reasons Biden said no was because Russia has nukes. We can't get into a war with a nuclear country. If we get into a war with a nuclear country, it's over. It's World War III. And World War III is a metaphor, at least in English-speaking countries, for the end of the world, nuclear Armageddon. Well, take this to today. If Putin sees, and he is seeing, by the way, that we are more afraid of nuclear war than he is, that we will pull punches, that we will not provide all the weapons we want to, and we know Ukraine needs because we're afraid Russia may go to war with us and we'll all use nukes, then why wouldn't Putin be emboldened to attack Poland as well? This is an argument I made at the very beginning, and I still think it stands. I said at the beginning when Biden was making these arguments about we can't afford to go to war with Russia because they have nukes, and per se, if we go to war with a nuclear country, it's the end of the world, okay? If that's true, then why would we defend Poland if Russia invaded? If Russia invades Poland or Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, what are we going to do? NATO's going to declare war on Russia? But, excuse me, President Biden said repeatedly that if we go to war with Russia because they have nukes and we have nukes, it's the end of the world. If the option is the end of the world or giving Russia Poland, we give Russia Poland. I'm saying, like, in terms of a tactical analysis here, guys, right? You do not end the world to save Poland. You also don't end the world to save the Baltic countries. You don't end the world to save Germany or to save France or to save England or even to save New York or Alabama or Mississippi, right? Better to give up half the US than literally kill all life on the planet. So my point here is that Biden's fear of Putin, and this is why I get so upset and push this so much. Biden's fear of Putin is enabling Putin to potentially do something dangerous. Because if I were Putin right now, and I've said this the other day, if I were Putin, I would not be convinced that Biden would respond strongly to a nuclear weapon being used in Ukraine. No, excuse me. Biden would respond strongly. How strongly? Right? I mean, our generals, mind you, former generals, it's always the former generals who can speak because the current generals can't. Former generals talk about how if Putin were to use nukes or chemical or biological weapons, that we would go in and bomb the Russian fleet and this kind of stuff, right? But would Biden really do that? Does anybody really think Biden's going to go and bomb the Russian fleet? Which means we're at war with Russia? There's no chance in hell if I had to stake my life on it, I'd say there's no chance in hell that Biden's going to bomb the Russian fleet if Putin uses nukes. So that if I were Putin right now, I'd be saying, maybe you can get away with it. And I'm telling you this, I just think this is incredibly dangerous what has happened with this. In any case, so that was a very long way. I didn't want to go long tonight. I'm already going long of answering the question, do I see the war going beyond Ukraine? I worry about it because I worry about the message we're sending. So I was going to say, so it feels like my first talking point I was going to talk about today anyway was it feels like I know my ring light is sort of reflecting for you guys. Sorry about that. But it feels like the tempo is picking up in Ukraine. It feels like we are getting a much, we're seeing a lot of attacks happen in Russia on the border, but also within Ukraine itself against Russian interests. James Kung Fu asked a super chat question from the UK. Do you think Ukrainian sabotage are shaping for it? I'm going to say I can almost, without seeing the second half of your question, Ukrainian sabotage is, shaping for attack in Russia or just general sabotage? Well, that's a perfect segue into what we're talking about. So it has felt to me in the last 2 days, especially, that things are picking up in Ukraine. We're seeing the Ukrainian troops do more. Okay. I've also been noticing, chatter amongst the defense experts online on Twitter, where especially I follow them, but I mean, they're not Twitter experts who do defense. They're defense experts who are on Twitter, who seem to be also talking about their sense that maybe the counteroffensive has even begun already, but begun in terms of a shaping operation, which is what James is saying, which is basically when you want to send in your troops, okay, let's say you're going to send in the tanks and you're going to send in the troops, and you're going to send in the planes and everybody else, right? Well, first, you want to make things easier for those tanks and those troops and those planes. So first, you start to blow up, you start to try to blow up supply lines. You try to blow up ammunition. You try to blow up food and water, frankly, to make the troops, not have food. You try to blow up barracks of the troops so the troops get killed or injured so there aren't as many of them. But basically, you're shaping the battlefield so that it's more to your advantage when you do decide to invade, okay? And I think that's clearly what's going on. Leanne, thank you so much for that. That was very generous of you. Thank you for the super sticker. So that's clearly what's going on. I will give you some examples here right now. In the end, Ukraine is not going to be messing around in Russia itself too much because NATO has warned it not to. And there's a secondary concern. I was reading lately that the U.S. is a little bit concerned that if Ukraine, for example, were to go into Russia and try to take like Belgorod, Belgorod's a big Russian town across the border from Kharkiv, like right about here, 20 miles in, like 30 kilometers max, right across the border. If the Ukrainians went in and literally tried to take Belgorod, the concern, first of all, is maybe Putin would use nukes for that, right? To stop a Russian town being taken, but also the Chinese might get involved. And the Chinese might finally use that to basically say, you know what, if you're literally talking about taking Russian cities, we're going to start giving weapons, and we don't want that to happen. I'm sorry, let's look in here. Sorry, thanks for who's that? Bonnie, thanks for the cap there. So let me go through some of the stuff that's been happening of why I say I feel like the tempo has been picking up. Here, I'll put Harvey's comment up just for folks to read it, but I won't stop. I'm going to keep giving you the news here, but I think it's interesting for those folks over there on YouTube and TikTok. A bomb was detonated in Russia's Bryansk region, which is kind of to the north, a little bit east, today, causing a freight train to derail. Another train derailed in the same region on Monday, right? So Ukraine's kept attacking this region, knocking out trains and things. There were also reports of a second attack today in the same region, but it wasn't confirmed what had actually happened. Local officials say the Ukrainians have been shelling the region as well with artillery. The Ukrainians say the region is used for launching drones and other attacks. Second interesting area of attacks today. Explosions were reported near the Russian-occupied town of Simferopol in Crimea. Crimea is the Ukrainian territory in the south that the Russians invaded and took in 2014. The Russians claim it's Russia. It's not, but the Russians claim it is. So Simferopol actually is on my map right here. It's this town right here. So in the south. So there were reports of explosions in Russian-occupied Simferopol. Explosion reportedly occurred in a former training base for border guards near a village. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. A few kilometers from the airport. This was reported by Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. There were, thank you for the confetti. Who is that, Ellie or Eli? Thank Eli or Ellie, whichever you are. Thank you. Proxy bombs. So collaborators getting blown up as well in the last few days. Now, this is something that's been going on for a while. Ukrainians have been very adept at killing collaborators. Collaborators meaning, thank you, who is that? Andrea, thank you for that. Collaborators meaning your own citizens who collaborate with the enemy. So this would be Ukrainians who, once the Russians invaded, said, you know what? I'll work for the Russians. I'll do security. I'll become a cop. I'll become a local official. It's called a collaborator. It's a very negative term. It was used during World War II and many other wars for anybody who was willing to work with the Nazis, for example, or actually not even work with. You're actually helping them, right? So the idea is you're helping them oppress your own people. Thank you, Marcy, for the boat there. So explosions wounded a top proxy official, so a top Russian occupation official in Russian-occupied Melitopol. I think this was today. Melitopol down here. Remember, Russia occupies all of this. Okay, so Melitopol down here. Melitopol is expected to be a key city when the Ukrainians finally invade with the counteroffensive. That's probably going to be a key city that the Ukrainians are going to want to take. This official was injured. He was the Russian-installed deputy head of the Internal Affairs Office. He was injured in a bomb explosion that was, anyway, some kind of an IED, an explosive device, which has been sort of the tactic of choice for the Ukrainian opposition, for the Ukrainian, what's the word I'm looking for? They had resistance to use against the Russians, but also keep in mind, last week, I told you guys on Friday, I think it was, that a Russian police official in the same town was blown up. He was a senior Ukrainian, who was a cop, a senior police official who, once the Russians came, said, I'll help the Russians. And he was blown up and killed last week. So there's a lot of anyway. I'll continue with that in a second. Gillian. So what is the point of NATO? Well, okay, fair point. I mean, I think Jillian is saying that in response to my saying, are we or aren't we going to get involved if Putin were to invade? The point of NATO is collective defense. So the point of NATO is that if one of us are attacked, all of us will come to the defense. Unfortunately, I think we've already seen in America that part of that depends on who's president. And I say this not trying to be political, but I do not believe if Donald Trump were president, there is at least a risk that if Putin were to invade Europe, that Trump would say it's not our battle. I think there's a risk there. Biden would say it's our battle. Mitch McConnell would say it's our battle, right? But it depends. But Trump, I think, would not. Nikki Haley, who's running for president, would absolutely say it's our battle. Mike Pompeo would. So it depends who. But Trump himself, I think there's a risk there. So that would call into question the NATO commitment. But generally speaking, up until now, Putin has absolutely, Putin and the Soviets before that have been too afraid to attack NATO, to attack any country in NATO. And keep in mind, NATO is, U.S., Canada, and then 29 other countries in Europe. And going from, the UK and the West all the way east to Poland, okay? And north to the Baltic states, south to Greece and Turkey, and then over Italy, Spain. So it's everybody encompassing there, right? And then up to the Nordic countries, other than Sweden. We're waiting for Sweden, but we hope we get Sweden soon. So the idea is collective defense. And so far that threat has been credible. Thank you, Cheryl, for the vote there. So far, that threat's been credible, but I mean, that is the point of it. And actually, I would say to some degree, there was some concern, but there was some discussion on whether NATO was even relevant anymore, that once the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, what was the point of having this collective European, American, Canadian defense if the Soviets weren't even a problem anymore and the Russians were going on their happy way. And then the Russians became evil again. Well, some people would say they never stopped being evil, but they started becoming very Soviet again in terms of dictatorship, in terms of expanding their empire, things like that. And we realized NATO was necessary once again. So that's my long answer. I'm giving long answers today. Sorry, guys. Although maybe that's not a bad thing, but thank you for the hat there. Who was it? Pav Kozy. Prigozhin. So Prigozhin, this was interesting too. So Prigozhin is the billionaire oligarch. Okay. He's the Russian billionaire, was cozy with Putin. Now, who the hell knows? He is the guy that runs the Wagner mercenary group. The Wagner group are the soldiers for hire that are Russian. They're working in a number of battles in Africa, Mali, the Middle East, Syria, I think Libya, Central African Republic, some others. And the Prigozhin releases an audio statement today, and this was wild, claiming that, and he's talking about the fighting in Bakhmut, okay? Bakhmut, the regulars know this, but in case we got anybody new here, Bakhmut is a Ukrainian town over here. Keep in mind what I told you before. All of this is occupied by the Russians. So you can see when I point to Bakhmut, it's free currently, it's free Ukraine, but the Russians are right on the border and trying to take it. Well, Bakhmut's been a very strange case. The Russians have been trying to take it for like 11 months now. It's crazy. It's a town of 60,000 people. It's not strategically important, at least from people in defense experts in the West do not think this town is strategically important. It will not help Russia to move on to Kramatorsk, which it probably would want to move next. Bakhmut is not where you do it from. So it's not, but the Russians have some crazy reason they've been trying to take this for 11 months now. They've been doing a very bad, well, okay. Do I even need to say they've been doing a very bad job of it? The Russians have been trying for 11 months to take a tiny town of 60,000 people and failing. Okay. Now they're slowly getting more. The Ukrainians decided early on, and it was very smart of them. Sip of water here. I am going to have to get more water. I'm like downing this stuff tonight. The Ukrainians, Zelensky, with his general, decided early on that it made sense to defend Bakhmut. The U.S. was kind of hemming and hawing a little bit, but it still looks like Ukraine was correct about this. Basically, the analysis was that Ukraine and Russia are at war. They're going to be fighting somewhere, right? If they're not fighting in Bakhmut, let's say Ukraine gives up in Bakhmut, okay? And like we said, thank you for the gloves there, buddy. Let's say Ukraine gave up in Bakhmut 6 months ago. The Russians would take Bakhmut and they would move their troops somewhere else. They probably would move their troops over here, up here, whatever, and try to go after Kramatorsk. So then the Ukrainians would be fighting in Kramatorsk instead. The point is, if Ukraine gave up Bakhmut months ago when the Russians were attacking, that wouldn't stop the war. It would simply move the war to another city. Okay, fair enough. It's all even, but it's not all even. Bakhmut, the Ukrainians determined, and they were right, was a particularly good city to defend. That basically, if the Ukrainians could fight the Russians in Bakhmut, they could inflict a lot more damage on the Russians than they could perhaps in some of the other cities in the area. And the Ukrainians were right. The Ukrainians say that 7 Russians have died to every 1 Ukrainian that has died fighting for Bakhmut. The NATO says it's around 5-1. And the average for that kind of a battle where you're defending a city is usually 3-1. So basically, if you take the NATO numbers, 5 Russians have died for every 1 Ukrainian that has died fighting in Bakhmut. So from a Ukrainian perspective, of course, you don't want your men to die, and women, by the way, the women in the Ukrainian military, I think 20%. You don't want them to die, but they're going to be fighting somewhere. So why not have them fight in the city where the odds are best for the Ukrainians? So that's what the whole Battle of Bakhmut is about. Listen to this from Prigozhin today now. Prigozhin released an audio statement claiming that the Wagner mercenary group today lost 103 people. So they lost 103 soldiers, which is a lot, actually. Earlier in the war, we were talking about Ukraine losing 300, or Russia too, losing 300 or 500 troops in a day. 103 in just one battle, very important. But listen to this. The Russians lost 103 troops today in Bakhmut, capturing 160 meters of land. That's 480 feet of land. It's 1.5 football fields. To capture 1.5 football fields, they lost 103 troops. That's crazy. And that's what's been happening this entire time fighting for Bakhmut. So generally speaking, good for the Ukrainians, bad for the Russians. Denmark, last little point on Denmark, and then I'll give you a little pitch, and then we'll do a little more news here. Denmark is going to provide Ukraine with the biggest military aid package to date from Denmark, that is, worth $250 million, they announced today. Yay for Denmark. Let me do a quick pitch for my Discord. You guys may know in the past I've been pitching my Patreon. Patreon got a little saucy with me because they didn't like the fact that we were raising money for Ukraine, and they threatened to cut me off. They didn't cut me off, but I had to devote my Patreon 100% just to my journalism. So it is now. It's not linked to my Discord. It's not linked to TikTok or anything else. It's still there. You could always, I'm not actually linking to it because I'm actually kind of afraid now that Patreon may just take it down. They've done this to a number of Ukrainian creators. They've literally just canceled their accounts. So I don't want to build up a lot of you on Patreon to support my work. Patreon is a way of basically giving a monthly donation. What I'm doing instead now is our Discord community. I've set it up so you can do donations on Discord. If you're interested, please go to my profile on TikTok and look at the Linktree link. Click it. All my links come up, including Discord. For you guys, you can use the link at the bottom of the screen, tiny URL link, or just aravosis.com will give you all of my links. But what I've done with Discord is quick word of warning here. If you're going to register, and I hope you will, first of all, go join our Discord anyway. We've got almost 2,000 people. It's a lot of fun. We got some cool auctions of cool Ukrainian stuff. Half the money I bring in from the Ukrainian auctions goes back to Ukraine. But if you're going to sign up as a paying member of my Discord, or on TikTok, for example, if you are going to buy those coins you buy, right, to buy the gifts for people on TikTok, go do it on your computer and not your phone. It can be 30% more expensive or 30% fewer gifts if you do it on your phone. For example, my Discord community is $7.99 a month for the lowest option, because they only let you do a few options. $7.99. If you go on your phone and look it up, it's going to show you $10.45, because they add 30%, because Apple charges them 30%. So same thing happens with the coins you buy on TikTok. I always like to tell this as my public service announcement for you TikTok people. Those coins you buy, if you buy them on your computer first, and then they're in your TikTok account, then you will get a lot more coins than you would if you just buy them on your phone. So that's my gift to you on TikTok, just so you guys know. But please do check out the Discord. We've got a lot of cool things, including auctions there, by the way. We've got actually, oh my God, I've got like 6 or 7 auction items ending tomorrow. Cool stuff from Ukraine. We've got a Russian sniper, part of a Russian sniper outfit, a Ukrainian sweatshirt honoring the Air Force, a really cool tractor tank plaque, the Ukrainian farmers that would pull the Russian tanks. We've got a plaque from Ukraine, all really cool Ukraine stuff. Android, okay, Android's only quoting $7.99. That's good to know. That's good to know. Although Android actually, I think in the end, won't let you purchase it on your Android. It'll make you go to your computer. Hey, not my fault. Anyway, that's a very long way of saying, guys, I do this for free. I've been doing it for free. This is my job. This is actually the way I am trying to make a living by doing this. So I would appreciate your help if I can just get 2 of you a day to go to my Discord and sign up as a paying member. That would help me a lot. And you can always cancel whenever you want. But if you go there, you get access to a special auction area. I do a special coffee talk every Saturday morning, almost every Saturday morning. I was traveling last week just for the paying members. Lots of little emojis you get and lots of cool stuff. So please check it out if you can. You can find my discord.aravosis.com. You can find the link in my profile on TikTok. You can find the link right at the bottom of the screen there, tiny URL or aravosis.com. All right, let's keep going, guys. Russian labor shortage. So this is interesting. One of you brought up yesterday, and thank you. Keep the gifts coming. Thank you, Ellie, for that, for the hand hearts. One of you brought up yesterday that you had read an article about labor shortage in Russia, meaning not enough workers in Russia and what was going on. And I kind of dropped the ball on that one because I was thinking, and I was right to some degree, about all the Russians who fled the country because of the war. But I was forgetting another obvious point because I actually read an article in The Economist, I think it was, on this a month ago. And we even talked about it on the show. I was just spacing out. So a number of things going on. Russia's population has been decreasing, I believe, for decades now, possibly 2 decades. Russia's population has been going down. Not good, obviously, for any country, because when the population starts to shrink, right, you're either, or both, you're either losing older people or you're losing babies. Now, it probably means babies in this case, like not as many people are having babies. When you have fewer babies, that causes a problem for the economy because fewer babies means fewer future workers. I mean, not to make it all communist thinking, but babies are future workers. So if you have fewer babies, fewer people will eventually become workers in the economy in 18 years, 20 years. At the same time, they have a growing number of people who are retired. And the growing number of people who are retired are a greater burden on the state, right, financially. So you've got fewer workers who are kicking money into the state, and you've got more people retired who need money. And then this isn't just a problem in Russia, other countries have this problem too. So that's one problem. Fewer babies means fewer workers, okay? Thank you. Who's the hat there? Thank you, Mike Torres, for the hat there and the mustache. Working age population has been decreasing in Russia over the next decade. They believe the working age population will shrink 6.5%. 1 million Russians fled the country last year, we believe, because of the draft, trying to get away with it. All of these, by the way, hurt the labor market because they take workers out of the economy. 500,000 Russian men entered military service as of March 28th of this year, according to Bloomberg. The Kremlin announced another 400,000 men it wants to get into the military service. Those are men who will not be available to work jobs in the private sector. Again, taking workers out of the economy. The men being killed in Ukraine are another problem, right? If they're killed or they're injured, they're not able to work even when they get out of the military. Unemployment, a final point was unemployment is reportedly actually low in Russia, if we believe it, just like in the West. So companies are also having a hard time finding workers because there aren't there aren't any jobs. I mean, all the jobs have been taken. Well, not any jobs. Let me rephrase. I'm sorry. There aren't any workers. This is all a result of this. So unemployment rate's very low. And if you've got jobs available, you can't find people to take them. So you've got to raise your prices on the job to attract workers, which causes inflation. Again, this is some of the problem a big problem we've had in the West since COVID struck. And a big problem with inflation not the only problem, but has been the fact that unemployment is at a record low, the economy is surging, and we just don't have enough people to work. So that was your answer to your question about what was going on with the labor shortage. I can't believe we spent this much time. All right, guys, I'm going to look and see what's important in the end of that, because I didn't mean to go on this long tonight, but there's like tons of interesting information. Hang on. Let me look at my notes. Putin has not been given an invitation to attend the coronation of the British king this weekend. Dating app Tinder is quitting Russia by the 30th of June. Good. I've only got 2 more stories. All right, listen to this. You might recall a month ago, you might have heard this story. Vlad, my friend Vlad in Ukraine, gave me an update on this that made me laugh. A month ago, a Ukrainian tech guy and a drone developer offered a $540,000 prize money, $540,000. So I forget what that is in euros. It's kind of close in euros, probably. $540,000 prize money to the winner of a race to land a drone on Moscow's Red Square. And the idea was to try to land the drone there for May 9th, which is the big celebration the Russians have every year, to celebrate defeating the Nazis in World War II. The Russians like to pretend that they were the only people who fought the Nazis, even though the Russians actually had a secret pact, maybe not so secret, with the Nazis. They were actually allies of the Nazis at the beginning of the war, but they don't like to talk about them. So in any case, thank you for the butterflies there. Who's that inspired woman? Thank you. In any case, so this tech leader in Ukraine offers a $500,000 reward or prize money to anybody who can land a drone first in Red Square in Moscow, preferably on May 9th, which is their big victory day, where all the cameras, Putin's on the square, they bring all their scary little nuclear weapons by. It's the big, fascist military parade they have. Well, Vlad said today that 1,147 companies, that is 1,147 companies, have applied to participate in what he calls the flash mob to plant a Ukrainian drone on Red Square on May 9th. Going to be very interesting if they pull this off. Now, anyway, I'll let that story go. The final one I was going to tell you, okay, I'm going to read you this last story because it really pissed me off. And I think it's important because one of the things I try to do with the news is I try to find stories that are illustrative of a larger point, that give you a sense of how the war is going, that give you a sense of who the Ukrainians are, who the Russians are, right? So listen to this. The Russians are forcing Ukrainian children, school kids, in Mariupol. Mariupol is right here. Mariupol is the town the Russians have been occupying for a while now. It's the town, they've destroyed this town. It was a town of 450,000 people. By last count, there were like 100,000 left. This is the town where the Russians blew up that drama theater. Remember the theater that had the word children written outside? So the Russian, bombers could see it. And the Russian bombers saw it and they bombed it anyway and killed, Associated Press says, I believe, 600 people. Or Reuters, one of them did an analysis. 600 people were killed in the bombing. It's the town where the Russians bombed that maternity hospital. And remember the woman that was laying back on the stretcher with like the watermelon print, and she died and her baby died? That's Mariupol. Mariupol is the town where the Azovstal defenders were fighting. Remember the 2,000 men and women who were fighting inside the steel plant against the 14,000 Russians for like 2 months? That's Mariupol. The Russians destroyed Mariupol. Well, the Russians in Mariupol are forcing Ukrainian students who are still there. Mind you, these students lost family members. They've lost friends. I mean, every one of them has lost people who have died as a result of the Russians. They're forcing them to write letters thanking the Russian troops for attacking Ukraine. I want to read you. They gave them a template of like things they can write to the troops. I want to read you this. You are a real soldier because you already serve. We believe that our army is very strong. Of course, I kind of love this because, of course, a Ukrainian writing this is going, yeah, we do believe, like, not the Red Army. They want them to write to the Russian army. We believe that our army is very strong, powerful, and can repulse any enemy. Listen to this last one. It's long, but listen to this. I support our president who set the task of destroying the neo-Nazi evil spirits and their military bases. I really want Ukraine to get rid of all of this and become a peaceful and free country again. I really want our countries to become united as before, because I see Yulia's here. She's going to love this. Because Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus are all one people. I have relatives who also take part in a special military operation. They literally want them to write the Russians and claim that they've got relatives fighting for the Russians. I mean, imagine, and mind you, these guys have killed your family members, okay? I have relatives who also took part in the special military operation. Many live on the territory of both Donbass and Ukraine. Donbass is Ukraine. It's the territory in the east that the Russians are occupying. I'm very grateful to you, our defenders, for the fact that you courageously and heroically fulfill your official duties. Tell me this doesn't sound like a total North Korean dictatorship. Okay, the way this is written. You courageously and heroically fulfill your official duties. You risk your life every day for the sake of peace on earth. I sincerely wish you, dear soldier, good luck, health, and all the best. As they say, not a bullet, not a fragment. Actually, maybe Yulia or somebody can tell us what that quote means, or any of the other Ukrainians here. What's that quote about? Not a bullet, not a fragment. I can say with confidence, you, Y-O-U, all capital letters, you are real heroes. I am very proud of you. Ugh, I don't like ending the news on like a really nasty thing, but I mean, this is who the Ukrainians are fighting. This is who I would say we are fighting. That could have been written by the Soviet Union. It could have been written by North Korea. It's sickening. And this is what gets me when they say not the Russian people. There are a hell of a lot of Russians who apparently don't represent the Russian people, who do a lot of really bad stuff. And this would be yet another example. Teachers in Mariupol that are forcing kids. Whatever, you get it. Stuff just drives me crazy. All right, the other thing, go check out, now we'll open up the questions. Go to our store at store.aravosis.com. It too, like the auctions on the Discord, half of the Ukrainian products, actually I think we only have Ukraine themed stuff on the store, half of the profits go back to Ukraine. And we're doing the same thing with our Discord, the auctions on Discord, all of which end tomorrow. By the way, I'm going to set up a whole new bunch of auctions, but all of our auctions end tomorrow to make it easy. Go check it out on Discord. Half of the proceeds on the auctions I send back to Discord, and lately we've been using them to help make camouflage nets for the military. So please do check those out. Check out the store.aravosis.com as well. You can find the store via, Kukla's coughing over here, mom's dog. You can find the link over on my TikTok. Thank you for the money there, Chaz. I saw you bid today. I think that was you today. I think I saw. Thank you, Kathleen, for the boat there. All right, guys, let's do Q&A. Got my glasses on. To submit questions, you guys on TikTok can use the Q&A link in the profile. The rest of you, Twitch, YouTube, the rest of you can obviously use the comment box at the bottom of the screen. Interesting. Don't know about that. Grodon is saying Wagner Group supposedly found 300,000 boxes of weapons and munition. It's only one Swedish article. Yeah, that makes me suspicious. It always, thank you, audio producer. I appreciate that. Always a little suspicious about that. Thank you, Kathleen. I was getting kicked that they put that like crow on the boat too. I don't know why they do that. I'm always a little suspicious of articles that like there's one article in some obscure Swedish paper. It kind of makes me wonder, right, whether it's real. I wouldn't believe it. You are Biden, B-A-I-D-E-N, propagandist, except that all I did today was criticize Biden. So how does that work? Our troll is saying I'm a Biden propagandist. Quite literally, I've said next to nothing positive about Biden today, and I ripped him to shreds for being too soft on Putin. So it doesn't quite work that way. What else? Kelly Font says, I saw a video today of a Russian war reporter in Yalta ask a teenager about the Ukrainian counteroffensive, and he said he was for Ukraine. Later, he was forced to apologize on camera. You know what? I heard about this, but didn't see the entire story. I saw that some kid had to apologize, but I didn't see what it was. No, this is a, what do you do? Actually, by the way, I did have a bro today. I had a bro. I had a bra today. So those of you who don't come regularly may not know this, but one of the things I try to do with my show here is educate people on how to spot a Russian troll. What? Are we doing this again? It's been so long. I know it's been so long. Mom's dog is here. She hasn't done this to me. Well, I haven't been here in months. She usually waited until actually just about now in the show, and she would sit here and come bark at me. Kukla, you want to come here and say, come here. Okay, come here. I know, Sasha. Don't worry. Don't give me the look. Sorry. Come here. Come on. Okay. All right. I'm going to pick her up. You guys can say hi, and this way, thank you. This way, maybe we can keep Kukla a little bit less barky. This is Kukla, everybody. Mom's 14-year-old dog who almost died from eating an onion a few months ago, who should have died from eating an onion a few months ago, and then miraculously came. Thank you. Miraculously came back. All right, what we teenager. I don't even remember what we were saying, guys. Don't even remember what we were saying. So she made me forget. Let's do more questions. Puppy. All right. I will pull up my TikTok questions in a second, but what else we got here? I can pull up a TikTok question here. Hold on. Oops. Oh, how to spot a Russian troll. Thank you, Matt. So yes. So one of the things the Russian trolls do is they've clearly been given talking points, and one of their talking points is either to say dude or bro, but they often say bruh, which is even worse because like bro, maybe it's an age thing. Dude, like I'll say dude occasionally, although I say it being funny, like dude, come on, right? But bro feels a little archaic, and bruh, BRU, to me feels, it doesn't just feel archaic. Bruh feels like it just is, it's like a caricature or something. Well, anyway, actually we sell one of the t-shirts we sell in our store says, Russia is losing, dude, because the trolls would always come and post comments that says Ukraine is losing, LOOSING, losing instead of losing. So we decided to do a t-shirt that says Russia is losing, dude, because they say dude. Well, we get a troll in the comments on TikTok today, in my video on TikTok, and the guy actually said bruh. He went after me about Ukraine or whatever, and he ended his sentence with bruh for bro, like brother. And I was overjoyed. I even thanked him. I was like, yay. John, what will the fight over raising the debt ceiling affect supply to Ukraine? Oh, that's interesting. Well, the thing is, look, the debt ceiling thing is going to be a very complicated issue here in the States. I mean, it's like even hard for me to understand sometimes. It's very confusing. But the debt ceiling issue, but all you need to know is that we're going to be like shutting down the government if it's not financed. Okay. If it's not financed, we have to shut down the government. That could certainly stop money and aid going to Ukraine. Although I suspect we would take money and put it to some critical things like the military. The bigger concern is that Republicans try to force such cuts in, because basically I am not a fan of this notion of holding the debt ceiling hostage, because that's what it is. It's a very complicated issue. People think it means we're like raising your credit limit, saying, oh, now you can spend more, like you're in debt and you can spend more. That's not what it is. The debt ceiling literally raises the limit on how much the government can spend now, today. It's not really your credit card. It's your current account payment. If I think in accounting, you call it current accounts, meaning I pay my bills today, I pay my bills tomorrow. Without the debt ceiling, thank you, Kay, for the coral there. Without the debt ceiling being raised, you literally will have to stop paying our bills because we've had too much debt. And if we pay our bill tomorrow, if the U.S. gives out Social Security checks tomorrow, if the U.S. does anything, the government pays workers, right? Thank you for the boat there, Kathleen. If the U.S. pays workers, that will add to the debt. So if the debt ceiling isn't raised, the government literally can't spend any more money. It's not we can keep spending as long as we balance the right. It's complicated. In any case, the Republicans are holding it hostage and saying we are not going to raise the debt ceiling, which would cause the U.S. to default on its debt, which would cause a massive crisis economically. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. You can Google it and read up on it. Massive international financial crisis unless we massively cut the deficit. Now, mind you, whatever. We can get into why you didn't hear about this issue through the 4 years of Donald Trump, right? Debt ceiling was raised during Donald Trump. Nobody complained about the deficit, but whatever. Let's let that go. My concern would be, thank you for the drums there. Who was the drum people? K Rose. Thank you, K Rose. My concern would be the Republicans are trying to force massive cuts, and clearly people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, for example, who have been trying to get, thank you, pediatric nurse. I couldn't even find that. I tried to, I like on my TikTok, I can't even find that cool seal, but thank you for that. I worry that the MAGA crowd in Congress, in the House, is going to try to force them to cut aid to Ukraine as part of the debt ceiling debate. McCarthy, who's the House Speaker, the Republican House Speaker, gave a wonderful defense of Ukraine, of aid to Ukraine yesterday while he was in Israel. If you go Google the video, I won't go through. I explained it yesterday. You can find it. Just wonderful defense he gave. But I worry, that's the risk. That's the risk of what it could do to aid. But let's see, because the point is they're out for it. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, they want to kill aid to Ukraine. It is like top of their list. They want to kill aid to Ukraine. That's a concern, clearly. Hang on, going to TikTok question. 1 second here. I'm trying to do this with Kukla in my arms. Kukla, I'm going to put you down. She's funny too, because like my dog does not like being. She's still here, by the way. My dog does not like being held. Mom's dog was Dad's dog. Loves it. Could just sit here the whole time. Sorry, I'm putting on my shoes while I'm talking to you. The screen's bouncing. I wanted to show you. Could just sit here the entire time. And she's like, I'm being held. Oh, there we go. On TikTok. Kukla and the other dog could just sit here the entire time. And she's happy as a clam. Okay, can I put you down now? What do you think? Are you going to sit here? You want to go down? You want to sit? Okay, she's sitting on my lap. Okay, you can sit on my lap. You want to go down? I'll put you down. Are stealthy drones in the works that can't be picked up by radar? Ugh. I thought I read something on this recently, and I'm not remembering now. I'm sure. I would be surprised I'm not up on the drone thing. I would be surprised we don't have some anyway. We must have stealthy drones. And I'm sure we've got stealthier ones. Now, the only concern would be you don't want to lose them, right? If it's a stealthy drone, you want to go down? Go down. If it's oops, sorry, dog. Grabbing my microphone. If it's a stealthy drone, you could have some material there you don't want the Russians to get their hands on, But I don't actually know. I guarantee you we must be. We must be. And we must have some anyway. Somebody out there must know. Well, right, not the disposable ones, because you're not going to have a $10,000 or $20,000 disposable drone that has, that has all the stuff, all the secret codings and everything else. If Trump is president and won't protect Poland, will the rest of NATO still protect them? If so, won't that start World War III? Russia will still nuke us. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. So, right. If Russia attacks Poland, the Baltic countries will certainly come to their defense. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. So now you got those three countries. One thing that I think, again, we were saying Trump, I'm not convinced would come to aid them. Because he's just very anti-NATO and just been very anti-Europe as well. And also very pro-Putin. So like on multiple levels, I don't think he would come to aid Europe. But American domestic politics become an issue too. First of all, okay, you got Europe. I'm not sure what happens next, but they invade Poland. The Baltic countries would absolutely get involved. I don't know who else there. Well, I can tell you right now, Poland gets invaded. First, I guess it depends what happens to Ukraine, right? If Ukraine loses, but Ukraine would probably start the war up again if Poland got invaded. I don't know what the other Eastern European countries would do, like how close they are to Poland. But you've got to keep in mind too that America, we've got a lot of Poles in America, right? So that you start to have, and there's just a lot of people here domestically, period, who would be, a lot of Republicans who would be up in arms if war broke out with NATO and the US didn't get involved. So I just don't know in the end whether he could pull it off. But, there are the nukes. Well, here's the problem too. You've got American troops. You've got British troops. You've got German troops. You've got all of these. America, for example, has a lot of troops in Poland. It's kind of hard for Russia to attack Poland without attacking American troops. And that's frankly part of the idea. The idea is to have American troops that are close to the Russian front just in case war breaks out, so they're there. But the other idea, frankly, is to, I've always believed this, to have them close to the Russian front so that if Russia invades Poland, they have to kill American troops to do it. And as soon as they kill American troops, it's war. Right. So, but yes, you're right. If Trump were to stay out, could he really stay out? Because wouldn't war break out in Europe anyway? And then America wouldn't have a choice. It's not like we could sit there and go, I'm also, a lot of us are European still. America is becoming browner country, so to speak, right? Latinos and everything else. But a lot of us, I would say, especially the power centers, the people with money, the people with political power, are still European origin. And I think a war in Europe of the Russia attacking these countries would freak out a lot of Americans, because we feel close to the Europeans. I mean, we just do. People like me do, at least. So that it would be, I think you'd see a lot of pushback, which is good, but it would be worth it. Well, Ned's mentioning World War II and others on TikTok, World War II, America didn't want to get involved. Now, interesting little thing about World War II was I had watched the, what's his face, who does all the really cool documentaries. And he did one on the Roosevelts. You know who I mean? Did the Civil War. When you give me his name here, I'll mention him. You guys know who I mean. But he did the Roosevelts, and they were saying there, which was interesting, which is sort of an obvious point, but I hadn't thought of, was that a lot of Americans in the night, Burns, thank you, Ken Burns, a lot of Americans in the late 1930s were Europeans, right? They were European immigrants. My family came from Greece in 1938 to avoid the Nazi invasion. My grandfathers had come before anyway, but like dad's father and mother immigrated like 1929, 1930 or so, or 1927, I think, actually. Moms kept coming back and forth for 20 or 30 years and finally brought the entire family in 1938 because he knew the war was coming to Greece and he wanted to get his family out, right? So imagine these, I'm not saying my grandfather, but imagine all these European Americans who make up most of the country, a massive amount of immigrants who are new in the last 30 years, and they left Europe to get away from that godforsaken place of incessant war, right? World War I, World War II. Well, then they come to America and people are telling them, oh, that place you left because of all the wars? There's another war. Let's get involved. And these guys are going, are you effing kidding me? Like, I got my family out of there. I'm not saying my grandfather, but like, I got my family out of there to leave those wars. And now you want me to go back in? So that was a big issue of why Roosevelt was having such a hard time getting America into World War II, even though he found it necessary. Just interesting. I just thought it was a really interesting analysis of sort of immigration and it's just very interesting, the population. Ben says, I still think that Russia isn't going to attack NATO because we have a technological and conventional advantage over Russia. True. They can't take Bakhmut and are using criminals to fight. Yeah, I mean, Ben raises a good point, which is, Russia can't even take this tiny town of 60,000 people that they've been trying to take for 10 months. No, Russia, in the end, fair point there too. You're right. Russia's having a very difficult, what did I say? It's day 432, I think. We're at day 432 of Putin's 10-day invasion of Ukraine. It was going to be a 10-day war. Or 3-day, depending how you count it, right? Day 432, 1 year and 2 months or so. Or no, more than that, it was February, March, April, May. We're 2.5 months at this point. If the Russians can't do that, how are they going to take Poland? Not just take Poland, but take Poland even more now after the Ukrainians have just worn them down, right? They can't. But then again, it's... Anyway, yeah, I'm with you. We've got to prepare for the Russians possibly invading. But I think I don't know. But that then counters the argument that we need to worry about the Russians, about losing Ukraine, because then the Russians will move on to other countries. Oh, interesting. Okay, there you go. Joanna was mentioning on TikTok really quick that seal gift. It says, I said just real quick, Joanna on Twitch was saying on her TikTok, it shows that cotton, the seal, as one of the new gifts, but on mine, it doesn't show it. So I was just curious because I looked before the show because I was curious about the seal and I don't have access to it, but it's okay. What about nuclear? Plamen Paskov is asking, what about nuclear? The thing is, I still I worry about Putin using chemical, biological, or nuclear in Ukraine if we have not sent him a clear enough message of what's going to happen next. And I don't think we have sent him a clear enough message. I don't think so. I don't think so. As I said, I am not convinced that Biden would go and declare war on Russia if he uses nukes in Ukraine. I'm not convinced at all. I think Biden will do everything he has to stop going to war with with Russia. So that worries me. The advantage, or not the advantage, the good news for Ukraine is all the military experts say there's no advantage to Russia using nukes in Ukraine. There's just no advantage. They get nothing militarily. It doesn't help them in the war. It's not like all the Ukrainian troops are in one spot, and if you drop a nuke, they all die. I mean, that doesn't work. The Ukrainian troops are all over the place. So the second problem is that supposedly all of that land that the Ukrainians are fighting in, Russia claims it's Russia. Is Russia going to nuke its own land? Third problem, that's land Russia wants to hold on to, and even if Russians claim it's Russia, but the point is they want to hold on to it. If you nuke that land, that's a real big problem, because when you nuke it, even with small nukes, you've got to clean up that land, and cleaning it up, I was reading about this, cleaning it up means like digging down 6 feet worth of soil and digging it up and getting rid of it, getting rid of all the plants, all the trees, all the houses, all the buildings, and all that material is radioactive. So you can't just like throw it in the town next door. In any case, so, I don't think Putin's going to use nukes in Ukraine. But again, part of it's going to be whether we've made clear to him that we're going to war if he does. And the thing is that one of the ways, I saw somebody say something like this recently, I was trying to think exactly, but one of the ways you avoid, I know what it was, I didn't love that British special. Antonio was recommending it, but the one from 1986, showing like a war breaking out in Europe between America and Russia, a nuclear war. And there was sort of this peacenik British official talking about, we could go to war or something, and basically that we should back down. Like, what bottom line was, the explanation from one of the guys, which was a good explanation, was the very reason we have the nuclear weapons is to make a nuclear threat so that Russia doesn't respond and use their nukes. Like, if they know that we're willing to use our nukes, they will not use their nukes. And that is what will stop. Thank you, Tanner. Thank you, Tanner, for that. That is what will stop the Russians from using nukes, is if they think, not that we're going to use nukes, but that we will come down like a ton of bricks and declare war on them. And nobody wants war with Russia, but I would argue the way to avoid war with Russia is for Russia to know we are willing to go to war with them, right? It's the whole idea of deterring a bully, right? Buy a gun. I mean, people who buy a gun to defend their homes. If you bought a gun to defend your home, and the burglar knew you had a gun, but he also knew, you already said you'd never use the gun. Well, then the burglar's not really deterred from invading your house because he knows you've already said you would never use the gun. And that's kind of the same problem with nukes, is you've got to be clear that you would be willing to use, whether it's nukes or whether it's going to war, the NATO Article 5, right? That we would go to war to defend each other. If Russia doesn't believe that, then I think there's more of a risk, at least, of Russia of causing problems. And I do worry. I'm not convinced. Like I said, I'm Biden's puppet. I'm not convinced Biden would go to war over Putin using nukes, which, by the way, is really dangerous, because we're already in a dangerous situation with regards to nuclear weapons, because Ukraine has shown the world that don't ever give up your nuclear weapons. Ukraine had nuclear weapons. They gave them up in the early 1990s. Security commitment from the Brits, the Americans, I think the French too, the Russians. Guess what? Russia invaded twice anyway. Ukraine's in danger of losing its country. Had Ukraine kept its nuclear weapons, this would not be a problem. Second of all, Russia's getting away with murder. Why is Russia getting away with murder? Why are we not giving Ukraine the long-range missiles it needs? Why are we not giving Ukraine the F-16s that it needs? In part, actually, the missiles 100%, because Russia has nukes and we're afraid of Russia. If Russia didn't have nukes, they wouldn't be getting away with what they're getting away with in Ukraine. So the lesson here for countries is, one, if you've got nukes, don't get rid of them. And two, if you don't have nukes, get them. Because you'll be the big guy that can push everybody else around. And B, if you're a little guy who gets nukes, the big guys won't push you around anymore. It's a terrible, sorry, my nose is itching. It is a terrible lesson, but it is a true lesson, and that is a big lesson of this war. And it worries me because that's another reason we have to defeat Russia in this war and make sure Ukraine gets all the weapons it needs, because we cannot have the lesson of this war be little countries who don't have nukes get pushed around and risk their survival. I mean, it's bad enough. I mean, no, it is. The nukes save lives in this case. It really does. But it's bad. I mean, it's bad. I don't want that to be the lesson out there for everybody, that everybody should become nuclear, because then it does get more dangerous, All right, let's do a few more questions, and then I'm going to go, because then we can do Discord for a little bit, because I didn't do Discord last night, and I want to do a little bit here. Maybe one more question. I'll look sort of on the screen with you guys. Throw me a good question or a good comment that we can talk about. Interesting. W.C. Fields, Biden's been tougher on Russia than any president in 30 years, though. Well, I mean, but that's kind of like saying, when Hitler's 30 years old, you were tough on him, but you weren't tough on him when he was a baby, because, of course, he was just a baby. I mean, Russia wasn't a threat in the 1990s. Russia was almost one of the good guys in the 1990s. So, of course, Clinton didn't have to be tough on Russia. Putin in the early years wasn't as big a lunatic as he was now, so people were trying to be nice to him. Bush didn't have a reason to stand up to Putin in the 1990s. Well, that's not totally true. That's not totally true, right? You did have some of the stuff. I'm trying to remember, was Georgia already in the 2000s? So you did have that. The Chechen stuff was happening as well. Obama dropped the ball, absolutely positively. As far as vis-a-vis Russia, that's true. Obama dropped the ball. Biden's been great, but I'm not grading on a curve here. Foreign policy, I would say policy overall in government, especially foreign policy, we are talking about people's lives here. We are talking about not just Ukrainians' lives, but the survival of our country, the survival of, thank you, Marianne. We still got to talk about our possible trip to Alaska or something. When you're talking about the survival of our country and about the possibility of going to war, a B+ isn't enough. A 13 out of 16, out of 20, I should say, isn't enough. You've got to get it right. And what I don't like is, I think Biden's not getting it right on purpose, so to speak, meaning General Milley or whoever got in his ear and has convinced Biden that we're just one step away from nuclear war. And I think we're, if anything, closer to nuclear war because of Biden's fear of Putin and not the other way around. If Biden were to stand up to Putin, I think, would back down more. But Putin sees Biden as weak vis-a-vis Putin. I mean, Biden is still giving Ukraine a lot of weapons and things, but Biden is terrified of Putin. He is. And if I were Putin, that empowers me to say, this guy's scared of me. This guy thinks I'm going to have war. I'm going to go to war. And if I do, it's the end of the world. So I'm going to do everything I have to convince him that I am going to war with him, that I am going to use nukes, that I am going to do all these things, so that Biden will just say, oh, we've got to stop giving Ukraine all these weapons. Or, like we've already been doing, we're not giving them the missiles they want. We're not giving them the planes they want. The tanks, sorry, my nose. I should have had an allergy pill before the show. The tanks, our tanks may not arrive until October at least. It's not great. It's not great. All right, let me do a quick summary of the news, and then we will. Oh, thank you. Sorry, there's Sorry, so a quick little gift on PayPal, but it didn't. Sorry, didn't see who it was, but I mean, it's in my PayPal, but I saw a little thing pop up. Thank you, whoever that was. I will see it after the show. Thank you for that. All right, let me do a quick summary of the news, and then we'll go over to Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com. We go over, we hang out, go to the bottom, all the way to the bottom left, and you will see a voice section, and you'll see John's after party, and we just go and hang out there. I talk, you guys listen and type, because there's too many people. Sometimes there's 50 of us, we can't have everybody talking. But go check it out, and like I said, please go and sign up on my Discord. I try to get 2 people to sign up as paying members a day to support my work. So if you'd consider it, and if you've been watching for a while and you like my work, please consider it. Links are in my profile. Links are on YouTube at the bottom of the screen. All right, day 432 of Putin's 10-day special military operation. I was saying it feels like the tempo of Ukrainian attacks is picking up. A bomb was detonated in Russia's Bryansk region, derailing a train. There were also reports of a second attack today in the same region. Also yesterday, there was another attack I think there was another train derailment yesterday as well. Explosions were reported near the Russian-occupied town of Simferopol in Crimea. Explosions wounded a top proxy official collaborator in Russian-occupied Melitopol. Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, released an audio statement claiming that Wagner today lost 103 people, capturing only 160 meters or 160 yards of land. Horrific. Denmark is going to provide Ukraine with the biggest military aid package the country has provided to date, $250 million. Russians' labor shortage is the worst in 25 years. I explained differing reasons for that, but we went through it. Basically, the population shrinking, and they sent a lot of men to war, and a lot of men fled the country, which is not good if you're trying to get people to work or trying to find workers. Putin was not given an invitation to attend the coronation of the British king this weekend. The dating app Tinder is going to quit Russia. That's not going to help the population problem either. I mentioned that there was a month ago that a Ukrainian financial tech guy, sure, Roshan, no problem. Roshan wants the map. You get the map while we're talking. This will be like my kukla. I'm going to hold the map up while I talk. That a financial guy in Ukraine offered a $540,000 in prize money for the first person to land a drone, the first Ukrainian to land a drone in Red Square in Moscow, which is just absolutely hilarious. Oops, hang on here. It was the... Yep, I'm with you, Joanna. Sorry, just reading Joanna's comment on Twitter. I shall put it up. I'm with Joanna. I agree with Joanna on this one. Anyway, and Blad said that there's over 1,000 companies that have now basically signed up to try to create the drone that can land in Red Square. Russia's forcing Russia's forcing Ukrainian students in occupied Mariupol to write love letters basically to the Russian troops who actually killed their families. So very sick stuff. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to head over to the Discord, as I said, discord.aravosis.com. You can also find the link in my profile to the Discord. Please do consider going and signing up. If you've been watching for a while, you like my work, sign up maybe for one of the categories of donations. I would appreciate it. I do this for free. I do it full time, so it would help a lot. Thank you guys in that regard for all the gifts. Thank you, the moderators, for keeping the bad guys in line. I only noticed a few of them, but I know there's usually more than I see. And thank you, Twitchers, especially because I know I've caused a little headache for you guys by switching the accounts. Oh, we've got 11 today. That's kind of our normal, or maybe even more. So thank you for that. Please do follow me if you're new on Twitch. But you remember on Twitch Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern, I'll do my weekend review, and for everybody else as well. If you've got Twitch, maybe go over there and check it out, because I'm going to try to I'm trying to make this Twitch thing work. So I'm doing a affiliate, so to speak, with the other account, the Aravosis account, and we will be trying my weekend review. So let's see. All right, guys, let me go. I will go to the Discord. We'll hang out for maybe 10 minutes because, as always, hopefully Mom's making dinner. Mom is making dinner. So leftover Greek chicken tonight, which is fine with me. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you all. Head over to Discord. You have painkillers?